Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturian Society. I
Welcome,
almost
everybody.
forgot that spiel halfway through.
Oh, did you?
What is my name?
I felt like the hint of a dramatic pause. I guess that's what that was.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
It sounded good. You're like, no, that was intentional. Absolutely.
Absolutely on purpose.
I like your choker necklace today. This is very cute. I'm a big fan of the choker necklaces.
I know. I want to be a choker person, but I'll go 2 to 3 weeks wearing chokers and then I forget for 2 to 3 weeks. So yeah, it's not a staple of the Karissa style yet, but
I get that. You'll get there. Yeah. I've gotten to the point where hoop earrings are my go-to for earrings, to the point where I have to like remind myself that I have many other earrings. I don't even have that many hoop earrings. I have a gold pair and a silver pair. It's fake gold and fake silver, but these are like the two. And so I just go back and forth between them to the point where I'm like, none of these really go with what I'm wearing. I wish I had something else. And I'm looking at all of the other earrings I've collected in my entire life.
Like, oh yeah, I do have other things.
Right, I do. And my choker necklaces are the opposite. I mean, in the sense I do only have like 2 of them, but I completely forget that I have them. But I'm constantly going, I only want to wear a choker necklace. What am I going to do? And yeah. I feel like I'm currently wearing my turtleneck because I'm a big fan of sleeveless turtlenecks.
I was going to say, but no sleeves. So impractical, but stylish.
Yeah, I definitely ordered another one that was on sale today that's red. And I have a dress that's sleeveless turtleneck. I'm a big fan of the completely impractical sleeveless turtleneck.
I like it. That sounds good.
It's because it's the closest I can get to fall clothes in Texas, it feels like. I mean, once it gets cold, I can wear a jacket with it, but it's still to the point where like, if the sun comes out or I go inside into the AC, then it's even in the AC, it's going to be too hot. I'm going to have to take off the jacket. So
yeah, that's like the big problem in Arizona when it's hot outside is you dress for hot weather, but then the second you go indoors, it's like the Arctic because everyone's trying to keep it so cold.
Yeah. It's a lot like that here too, where the AC is just cold wherever you go inside. And yet somehow when you have long hair and hormones, you're still like, why am I dying of heat stroke?
Somehow it still gets you.
Yeah, I am wearing pajama pants though. So I'm not like full on cutesy right now. I was wearing jeans and then I was like, why am I wearing jeans? The computer can only see me from like the boobs up.
There's not going to walk away on camera.
No. And if so, surprise everyone. I'm wearing pajama pants.
You have pajama pants?
Yeah, I'm a slacker. Apparently.
Aren't we all?
What that means. Well, how has your week been? Karissa, aka Lewis?
Yes. Well, Tolkien, aka Ash. I did it in the reverse, which is weird. My week has been good. Let's see. Not much special. That's pretty much the story of my life.
Honestly, same. 100% same.
I was like, what kind of story or thing can I share with people this week? And this week is that I watched 2 Netflix shows.
Like you finished 2 series?
No. So I watched season 2 of The Order, which is only 10 episodes. So like not a huge accomplishment. And then I'm partway through season 3 of You.
I was going to start watching You. I was told before that people might be like, Ash, that's going to be too triggering for you. But I heard recently that the book is more triggering than the series. So I'm like, keep watching the previews and I keep thinking, this just feels like a thriller to me. I feel like I can watch this. So I think I'm going to give it a shot.
I think you should. I mean, I think it'll be like a stressful but enjoyable thing for you, if that makes sense.
I hope so. I mean, if I get stressed out, I'll probably just turn it off.
Yeah. I mean, that's always an option.
We'll see if the intrigue outweighs the stress of it.
Exactly.
But it looks so intriguing.
It is. It's very unique because it's like, I don't want to give too much away, but it's just a very different take on.
Yeah. I keep seeing people post reminders that what's his face, the dude is not a hero. They're like, by the way, he's not the hero.
It is essentially taking the bad guy and painting him in the hero light and like how easily that can get distorted and therefore why he thinks he's the hero. It's so cool.
I mean, it's true. Everybody thinks they're their own hero. I can think of some people in my life who are like truly the most selfish, destructive people I've ever met. And they are 100% convinced that they are like God's gift and they are here to do good. And you're like, sweetheart, look around.
You destroy everything you touch. Maybe you're not the hero.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely all of us to an extent, but God, see, that's why I'm so interested in that show. So
it's very cool. So I'm I don't know. I'm like halfway through it, I think. So, but I'm on season 3, so it's good.
Does he have like a baby or something? I saw like a trailer that had what?
I mean, spoiler alert, but yes.
That might have been why I was also intrigued. I was like, there's a baby in the story now. I'm invested. I don't know why.
The baby's super cute. Aww. And either this was like the best baby actor of all time, or they spent a lot of energy getting just the right shot, because every shot of this baby is spot on.
I wonder if it was just like the most chill baby in the world.
Yeah.
I worked in a preschool infant class for like close to 3 years. And I worked at the preschool for close to 3 years. I worked in the infant class for close to 2 years. And in all that time, I can think of one baby that was like chilled 99% of the time. Most of our babies were like chill like 60% of the time.
Oh, that's pretty good. I was thinking 40. So 60 is
most good. Babies are pretty chill. I mean, if they're not hungry and they're not dirty or sick, they're pretty chill. They just kind of hang. But yeah, and then we had the babies that were upset all the time.
Yeah.
And they made life hell. But
like baby, 90% of your energy is on those kids.
Well, that is really what it is. That's why you're like, because like this is the thing about preschools, especially infant rooms, is you need 3 teachers in that room at any given time for your, like the state ratio. Like you have to have it. Like even if you're technically under ratio, you need the third person, because it's not like older kids where a few of them are throwing a fit and you can like tell them to go sit down. You have to give all of your attention to the furious baby. And when there's like 12 babies in the room, you're like multiple of them could be angry at the same time.
You have to have enough people for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun, man.
Nice.
Yeah. There were mornings when I cried into the cribs. I put the new crib sheets on every morning. They existed. Aww. That was because we were understaffed. And that's what happens when you're understaffed.
Your employees start to cry like the babies.
It's true. It's absolutely true. I'm like, I need someone to come comfort me.
That's a job. Someone who comforts the baby caretakers.
Honestly, we needed so much moral support that we did not have. It was rewarding and delightful, and the babies were everything to me, but that was a hard job.
I bet.
Totally off topic, but yeah, that's what I used to do, everybody, if you're curious.
Yeah. How was your week? Did I already ask you that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Tell me again anyway.
Okay. So let's see. Since last Tuesday, it's been good. I got my Imperfect Foods order today. So that's exciting because I got a lot of yummy treats. Their buffalo sauce is the best buffalo sauce in the world. And I have done some work on my Alien book that's going to self-publish. I had said I wasn't going to go back through it. And then I thought maybe I'm just being lazy. And so I'm not changing any major plot things at this point. But what I did is I'm listening through it with like Microsoft has the read aloud function.
Ooh.
And so I'm doing that because I realized there's the reason that like you could read through it and edit it, even spell check it like a million times. And there's still things you miss. But I've learned this is like the best hack ever, everybody, by the way, for like your final draft editing is turn on Microsoft Word's read aloud function. And it's amazing. Just sit there in front of the computer. Don't even be thinking about plot. Just literally let it read your story to you. And if it like there's a repeat word or you skipped a word or something just doesn't sound right, you'll hear it. You can just go fix it. You're not like thinking about the overall plot and structure and a million things at once. It is so effective. So I'm actually going to do that first, but it's still going to go up around the same time. So
nice. I bet you would also notice awkward sentence structure.
You do. Exactly.
Hearing it. That's a cool idea. Nice.
Yeah. I got you. This is my hack. So I think that's probably all of my news. I'm obviously very excited. Halloween is coming up. I have zero plans for Halloween, as I think I've mentioned, but I've got a little mug with a little French bulldog inside of a pumpkin. I've got my leaves up everywhere. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I've actually gotten less Halloween-y over the past week because I was like listening to music and I was reading scary books. And then I kind of hit a reading slump. So I haven't read much and I'm
a reading slump.
I know. And normally reading is what makes my vibe for like my life, you know? So if I'm not reading, I'm very off. So I'm like, I don't know what time it is, like what time of year. I don't know if who I am. It's just a very fun time.
No.
So
I can see that though. I'm like that with any kind of entertainment. I'm like that with shows and movies and books. Like everything is actually, even with like the food that I eat and drink is seasonal. So if I do something that's out of season or I do too much before the season is over, then I'm like, wait,
I do.
What time is it? Where am I?
My biggest thing is Christmas music. So my philosophy is that you start Christmas music after Thanksgiving, because if I start earlier than that, it ruins the Halloween and Thanksgiving vibe, and I'm burned out by the time Christmas comes around.
It's true.
So I just can't do it. And people will start to play it. I'm like, stop it. What's wrong with you?
No, I agree. Christmas music for me is a after Thanksgiving thing also. But somehow paradoxically, I can start watching Christmas movies not all the time, but like once every couple weeks, I can watch a Christmas movie starting in like mid-October. And I don't know why. And it's only with my mom. Like I don't watch them by myself. It's just that my mom and I will watch a bunch of hokey Christmas movies that like no one else will. I think it just feels like when we get to December, there's not going to be enough time to watch all of the hokey Christmas movies. Fair. So we kind of just start really early in October, but it's exclusively like the hokey Christmas movies no one else will watch with us.
Right.
Yeah. So we did watch one called The Spirit of Christmas, which is like, it's not a Hallmark movie, but it has all of like the things you love about a Hallmark movie, except higher quality. So you might like it. Actually, you really might like it. This would make like a really great book. So you might enjoy it. I really like it. It's kind of like, I will give the premise of it. Not that anyone is asking for this, but if you're looking for like a fun Christmas movie that's kind of like almost like spooky, mysterious, but it kind of Hallmark vibes, but without the level of cheese in Hallmark. The Spirit of Christmas is a great choice, and I will tell you why. Cool. So there's this like, I think she's a real estate lawyer basically, and she has to go get this property appraised. It's in one of the trusts that her like whatever manages, and all of the appraisers keep like leaving because they're like scared of some ghost.
I knew it. I knew that's what Spirit of Christmas was. Okay, go on.
Yeah, there's a ghost. And so she's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, which is, I would have said the exact same thing. I'd be like, okay, let me take care of this. And so
I got this, you wimps.
Yeah, exactly. So basically she does go. She is against, it's an old inn or something. And against like the current innkeeper, he's like, you can't stay here. I'm closing for like the week. I always close between like the 12th and 26th of December or something like that. Right. And she's like, no, I have the keys. I'm staying here tonight. I drove all the way out here. I'm not going to go get a hotel, which I also would do. So like a lot of it just feels like, okay, I can accept this. Right. But basically she gets startled by something in the house. She like knocks into something, a vase knocks her out. She wakes up, there's a like old fashioned dude basically. And it's this whole thing of this guy he used to be the innkeeper in like Prohibition times. Like he was a rum runner and he was mysteriously killed. And basically so that like to help him move on so that they can sell the house, they have to figure out how he died and why he was killed. So I love it. So it's like, it's a really interesting movie. I liked it a lot. Awesome. But it has all of like the warm, cozy Christmas that you want in a Hallmark movie, but with like all the intrigue of like a classic mystery. So
nice. And kind of good for October because of the ghost.
Exactly. So. I think that's why I felt particularly good about watching that one last week. So if you guys are looking for a Christmas-ish movie, it is Christmas movie. But if you're looking for like movie that's not like full on Christmas vibes, but a little bit, or a lot of it, okay, but not as much as most Hallmark movies. Spirit of Christmas.
No, is it on Netflix? I think I've seen it on Netflix.
It used to be on Netflix. This year it's on Prime Video, but it's free if you have Prime Video. So
nice.
Yeah. I don't know why I was just like, let me give you like the back jacket description right now.
It is kind of cool sometimes when you describe other books and movies, it can make it sometimes easier to describe your own book.
That's true.
You kind of get into the pattern. You're like, these are the details I saw in this. Therefore, I should focus on those.
You know what? That's a really great point, especially for what we're going to talk about today. That is a great idea. If you are having a hard time with your query letter, try summarizing some of the books, shows, movies that you love the most. Like try and do it, like put yourself on a timer and see how quickly you can do it.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
On that note, do you want to tell everyone what our theme is for this episode?
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about query letters and querying agents for publication, but specifically about rejections and how to cope with that.
Oh man, we are all so familiar. I was talking to Kendall from That Pretentious Book Club today on the phone, And I told her what we were doing this episode about, and she was like, haha, yeah, that's about right. Like that's timely because, you know, she's also querying her books. So as anyone who's queried their books at all, unless you've gotten like a true miracle, like rejection is a thing you'll experience and often.
Yeah, for sure. I read an interview that said Marissa Meyer got her agent on like her first batch of query letters. And like, first of all, makes sense because she's phenomenal. But also, I think it's because her pitch, she wrote the Lunar Chronicles, you know?
Yeah.
So she just had a really easy summary there.
Yeah, that's true.
So, anyway.
Fairy tale retellings those are easier, I think, for query letters because you already know the basic, like, you know what people want to hear about, you know what to tell them to expect. So you really just have to basically show how your story's different.
Yep. And especially back when she originally published Cinder, I think it was a newer thing. So
yeah, it was newer. It was. Now there's a lot, but yeah, hers was like one of the first like really original retellings. Before we get too far into that, do you want to tell me what's the word of the week?
Yeah. Okay. So the word of the week is bugbear, which is like a compound word, bug and bear.
Okay. Is it hyphenated or no?
It's bugbear. Yeah, bugbear. It is a cause of obsessive fear, irritation, or loathing. And then the other part is that I think this is the original definition: an imaginary goblin invoked to frighten children. So,
oh my God.
I thought that was Halloweeny. And
so that is so Halloweeny. This is so intimate. It's perfect. So like, have I ever told you the story of Jenny Greenteeth?
No.
Okay. Of all of the many mermaid stories I've looked up, this one used to be used to try to keep children away from like lakes, ponds, rivers, because, you know, they'll drown. And so basically they said Jenny Greenteeth was this mermaid that lived under the water, and she had like sharp teeth and green hair, and she was like evil, and she wanted to eat children. And so if you as a kid got too close, Jenny Greenteeth was going to grab you and pull you under and eat you. So so you could say that Jenny Greenteeth is a bugbear.
Yes, exactly. So like originally it was like this actual thing they used to like frighten kids. And I feel like there are a concerning amount of imaginary creatures that originated this way.
This is very, very, children just used to walking around in a state of trauma all the time.
They're like, we shouldn't explain things to our kids. We should just terrify them into good behavior.
They're like, you know what? I'm not sure an explanation is it's not even called for here.
Right. And I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense if your kid is 2 years old and can't understand that they'll drown, but I feel like there's got to be a better way.
Bugbear sounds like something that like a Southern person would say, like, because we have like a couple sayings that people like, and just like you don't like hear a ton. I feel like bugbear would be something that we would say, and yet I've never heard it. But.
I know. And so I guess more colloquially, it is just like a general thing that causes fear and irritation and stuff. So
I could say that spiders are my bugbear, even though they're real. No, I'm gonna thinking about it. I don't like it. I don't know why I brought them up. Now I'm upset.
It's your own fault.
I know. Oh God.
Anyway, I thought that was a cool word. So
bugbear. What a truly excellent Halloween word. Excellent choice.
Thank you. We could also say that querying is a bugbear.
Oh man, is that true?
Just to transition a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, before we super transition, I just realized we didn't talk about any book recommendations. Do you have any book recommendations this week?
No. I mean, I didn't read anything. I could pick something random off my shelves.
Go for it. Sure.
Okay, so I mean, they made a movie out of it, but the first book that my eyes landed on was The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, and I do love that series.
All right.
So I've heard the movie is not great, but if you guys like some dystopia with like younger characters, it's pretty good. It's like brief premise. It's all the women in the world have died and the men are all that remains, and they can all read each other's minds.
What?
So they have this like hive mind kind of thing going on.
Holy
There are no women. It's very cool.
There are no women. It's all men who can read each other's minds.
Because all the women
that just
are dead.
Seems unrealistic to me.
I know, you think it would go the other way.
Yeah.
But I mean, not to spoil it too much, but then a girl shows up and everyone's like, what? Because the older men remember women, but all the young boys are like, what is this thing?
What is that? It looks slightly different.
Yeah, it looks like us, but not really.
It's like us, but pretty.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Anyway, so random recommendation. I didn't read it this week, but
that's a good one. So fun stuff over at That Pretentious Book Club. For that podcast, we're doing 2 special Halloween books. We did Dracula. I don't personally really enjoy that book. I'll be honest about it. But we had a special guest, Lexi, who you also knew because we all went to college together. So she joined us for that episode, and it was a super fun episode. So we talked about Dracula. So that's not really a book recommendations so much as, I don't know, if you like vampires or you're into the Dracula story, at some point you should read Bram Stoker's Dracula. Just to say.
Also, real quick note, Kendall posted a TikTok on That Pretentious Book Club's TikTok about it, and it was hilarious.
Did you love it?
It was so good.
She worked very hard on it.
About the brides of Dracula. I was like, yes.
I'm so glad I feel like only a true like literary nerd would like really, really get it. Yeah, it's a good one. And then the other episode that's going to come out this next week is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. So if you know the Practical Magic book and movie, there's also in going back in the chronologically backwards, there's Practical Magic, Rules of Magic, Magic Lessons, and Magic Lessons actually came out the most recently, but it is like the prequel, the original, how the Owens women came to be. It's this family of witches. It is one of my favorite book series of all time. It's just like, it's a totally original take on like witches and women and like the power of sisterhood and the matriarchy. And it's just, but it's not like uber feminist in like a political way at all. It's just like, it's like truly, a natural kind. It's like a natural kind. It's truly just like delves into like the things that have always throughout history made women such like a valuable part of the human race. And it's just, but it's also like, you know, like natural magic and stuff. And it's really fun. It's really good. It's if you like The Scarlet Letter, I think that you would love Magic Lessons. It's got a lot of similar vibes, except that it's written more recently, so it's a little more interesting, like a little more engaging, but
faster paced.
Yeah, faster paced. One of my favorite books of all time. So
good to know. I want to read that this month,
dude. It's so good. And
I'll read it and then I'll listen to the episode.
There you go. Exactly. And the audiobook on Audible is narrated by Sutton Foster. So if we have any Broadway fans, Sutton Foster is a Broadway actress who I love and Kendall loves. And if you are a musical person, I'm sure you know who Sutton Foster is, but she does a truly excellent job of narrating it.
What is her like iconic role on Broadway?
Jo March, probably from Little Women, but she also played Millie in Thoroughly Modern Millie. I believe she also played Fiona in Shrek the Musical. I'm pretty sure, listeners, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about any of these, but I'm pretty sure those are some of her most iconic roles, but she's been in everything. Weirdly, I was thinking about this earlier and I was like, should I say it? I'm going to say it. So in the new Gilmore Girls, like short series that came out, you know, a few years ago, like our last year of college, and it was so good. Sutton Foster is in it because so you know they do the Stars Hollow musical that's really painful. The one that plays like the Pilgrim Woman, that's Sutton Foster. Yes. So the thing is, this is all set in like, you know, like the late 1600s Massachusetts, like colony, Massachusetts Bay Colony. So that's when Magic Lessons is set. So I keep picturing Sutton Foster as Sutton Foster in the Stars Hollow musical. And I'm just like, no. So those are my very lengthy book recommendations.
Cool. They both sound good.
They are, I mean, they are both good, but Magic Lessons is just far superior.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so to get into our actual topic, Rejection, our bugbear, apathy, our bugbear, the bugbear of every writer except for Marissa Meyer, apparently.
She's got super lucky.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, I will say, I have read 3. So I've read the Lunar Chronicles. I've read Heartless, which is a retelling of Queen of Hearts, and the Renegade series, and like she deserves it. She's pretty consistently awesome.
That's nice.
So
there's a couple of people I know, and they were nonfiction, so it doesn't say a ton, but they're much older than me. And they wrote these 2 totally different nonfiction books, and they found an agent like within months of beginning to query. And I am still dealing with this like annoyance over it. Like I'm happy for them, but I'm also just like, oh, how? But it's nonfiction, so it is a totally different world. And I think they do proposals instead of queries, so it's not even technically the same thing. But See, now my brother's trying to FaceTime me. Sorry, Caleb. My brother's trying to call me.
We're busy, Caleb. Go away.
Yeah. Hey, you knew because Caleb went to college with us.
Because I know him. I can say that. It's not me being a jerk. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say Karissa says go away.
It's going to be like, Karissa, what?
Caleb said in all caps, why you ignore me?
Because I am the priority. Obviously.
Karissa says she is the priority. He already knows that. So this is just reiterating it for him.
Yeah. We just need to put him in his place again.
Yeah, exactly. He'll learn to accept it. He says, okay, LOL.
He responded so fast.
Yeah.
Whenever I text people, it's like 4 hours later. And then on TV shows, they'll do the text thing and it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
That is the most unrealistic thing in TV shows.
Dude, I try to respond right away unless somebody texts me really, really late at night, because then I save it for the morning, because I've realized if I reply late at night, I will look at what I replied in the morning and have zero memory of writing it. So now I try not to respond to things late at night. But
it's fine. It's not a problem. I just think it's unrealistic that people respond right away because you get caught up on other things or you don't see it right away.
True.
Like
it's true for the most part, except for I feel like I might be the exception to this rule during daylight hours, because I try to respond like immediately. And because I work from home, unless I'm in a meeting with somebody, I typically can respond immediately. So like Javi will text me, I'll respond right away. And then he'll take hours to respond.
Yeah.
But now he's so used to me responding quickly. If I don't respond within the first minute, he's like, so why do you hate me? And I'm like, what?
Are we having problems? Do we need to talk?
Yeah, exactly. And then my brother, I will text and he won't respond to me for days. But when he calls or he texts first, he responds immediately. But it's only when he initiates the conversation.
Right.
Caleb says, tell Karissa hi and okay. Spelled H-A-I and O-K-I-E.
Nice. I accept his response. I also say hi.
And Karissa says hi, but spelled correctly.
Exactly.
Oh God. Anyways, how many queries would you say you've sent out at this point?
Okay, so I actually looked this up recently. I think I've been keeping them since the beginning. I can't say that for sure because I don't remember what 15-year-old me is when I started.
Hey,
I don't remember how on top of things she was. But if I have kept them all, and then also accounting for the fact that nowadays a lot of agents want the submission letter, and that doesn't, I save them in my email. But some of them just don't send confirmations or anything like that. So allowing for that, I'm thinking 200.
How many you've sent?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems simultaneously like a lot and also way fewer than I thought. And some of them are repeat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As a lot of mine are too, because, and we can talk about that too, is like at what point in time it's okay to repeat query, which is also at some point we can do like a whole episode about the query process because there's so much to say about it. But I believe at this point, I know it's more than 400 that I haven't counted since then.
Like for a specific book or all?
For all of the books that I've queried. And I think I've queried 3 or 4.
Okay.
And so between those 3 or 4 books, I have sent out over 400. It's pretty uneven, the distribution though. Like some books, I think one of my books I've queried close to 200 just on one of the books. I think my alien book, I probably only sent out like 50 because I quickly realized it's just such a weird concept. It's not going to be the first thing that I just published with an agent, you know?
Right.
Like that would be something that maybe if I already had a platform, the agent would be like, sure. Okay. So
let's see. All right. Where do we want to start with this? I guess with the idea that rejection is going to happen, we kind of touched on that with the Marissa Meyer thing. Yeah. Pretty much you're going to have to face rejections.
Yeah.
Coping with that is fun.
It is.
So I'm thinking about like back when I first started, if we have any advice for new time queriers, I think what I did is that I sent out 5, and that's small for me. I do them in batches. I send out like 10 or 15 at a time. Yeah. But I think I started out by sending 5 with kind of the knowledge that they would all get rejected so that I could handle it emotionally.
Yep.
And then after that, I mean, it still really hit me hard probably for the first couple years. And then I just reached a point of numbness.
Apathy, aka the sweet
yep.
spot.
Yep, exactly. So I don't know. Do you think you should send out fewer or more to kind of get the rejection thing going? Do you have an opinion about that? You know what I mean?
I think as long as you're finding agents who represent books in your genre and are looking for books like you've written, just keep querying. I think as long as you can find someone to query, keep querying. However, I think keep rewriting and reworking your query letter. Honestly, if you like totally redo your query letter and you queried that agent 6 months ago, and now you have a totally different query letter and maybe you've improved your book some, you can query them again, unless they for some reason told you not to, which is very, very rare. Usually if it's 6 months or more and you've either done a really big rework of the book or you've done a totally different query letter, you can send it again. And you might as well, because there's not an infinite number of literary agents out there. Plus, you never know. Maybe the first time they read your query letter, they hadn't had their coffee for the day. And the second time they do, and it's a totally different experience. I think if I could tell me 15-year-old, 16-year-old me just starting out with query letters, one thing would be the same thing. Same if you're into acting and stuff, like if you go to audition, this is the exact same concept. You have to remember it's all subjective. Yeah. I mean, you do want to keep in mind that there's always ways to improve. So you should always be trying to take cues from other writers. If you know another person who's been querying longer than you, ask them to look at your query letter. That has been some of the most helpful stuff I've ever had, is having other people who have queried longer than me look at my query letter, or even just readers who are really good at back jacket book stuff, because really what's in your query letter is what would be on the back jacket of a book. And it needs to be that gripping or more. So having other people look at it and give you a really honest opinion about it is super, super helpful. But I think when it comes down to it, when you know that your query letter is quality and you know that your book is quality, just understand that a rejection is not a reflection of the quality of your book. It's not a reflection.
Absolutely still will get rejections.
Yeah. You could have the most amazing book in the world and it could still get rejected 100 times or more before it finds the right agent. Because I think I don't know if we've mentioned it before in here, if it was on that Pretentious Book Club, but it's not just about finding a literary agent that represents your book or a book in that genre. It's finding the agent at the right time with space in their list, with the market trending whatever way it is at the time. There are a million factors that go into why they would or wouldn't take your book. It's why books that are crap still get published, is because maybe they check the box on a bunch of these other areas, and the literary agent was just in a really great mood that day, so it just seemed like a better book than it was, whatever the reason is. Same with auditions and stuff. It's when a director doesn't cast you in the role, it's not because you didn't give a bomb ass audition. It could just be because they have a different vision for that character or that show. And it's this exact same concept for literary agents and querying. And you can't take it to heart, but you also don't want to get to a point of pride where you're like, well, my stuff is really good, I should be getting published, because even if that were true, that's not going to help you in any way. You might as well just assume that I can do something more. So that's where a book is never truly finished until it's published. And even then it's only because it's already published and you can't change it.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah.
I will say, so I find this interesting because I have now joined Book Talk for Script Hearing Society things. A lot of I follow, and people following us are a lot of self-published writers, and a lot of them seem really great, and but I have noticed kind of a trend in some of the things that they say kind of in passing about why they self-published. And publishing is great. I think we're going to do an episode on it and everything, but if that's what you want to do, that's totally valid. But I do feel like a lot of them self-publish because they get rejections in their first 2-3 batches of queries, and then they get impatient. And I think you do have to keep in mind that there is a timing factor here. There is, as someone that's been querying for 10 years, new agents come into the field.
Oh my God, it has been 10 years for me too. I hadn't even thought about it like that. Oh my God.
Isn't that terrifying?
Wow.
So they're new agents. People have, switched from editor to agent. People have aged into the workforce. So
interns, reading interns before are now literary agents. Absolutely.
So all of that plays a part. And while, if your thing is you want to get this book published now and you feel like you want it in the world now, that's great. But I wouldn't give up early on just because you're getting rejected, because
I agree.
There is absolutely a I don't know, a good chance that someone down the line is going to want your book.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hope for my sake.
I think it's true. I think it largely depends on genre too. I totally know what you're talking about. I've seen that too, where people are like, yeah, I didn't really get any bites on my query letter, so I self-publish. And it's a concept that you're like, well, if you really wanted to go the traditional publishing route, you probably could have queried a little bit longer. I mean, at least you'd think, because if it's like a genre that's a popular genre that people are looking to publish a lot, you've got a better shot. Whereas like my Alien book is just weird enough that I could tell from the initial, even though I actually think I had a really good query letter. So especially when you know you have a strong query letter and it's still getting, no, thank you.
Right.
You're like, maybe this is not like a trending genre enough that it's really going to get much of a bite. So then maybe that's when you consider self-publishing. Like histories tend to be like that. Sometimes historical fictions is hard to publish. There's not as big of a market for it. Any kind of Christian fiction. It's at once it's a more niche industry. So I would still query it first because there's only a few literary agencies that represent it. But if you still aren't getting any hits on it and you just want to out there self-publish, it's like you have to just kind of predict what's going to happen. But keep in mind that even if you do self-publish your book, you can still usually publish it again traditionally. It depends on the literary agency. You can see in their submission section, they will tell you if they take pre-published works or not. So it's just the thing. It'll rule you out for some, but I wouldn't say for the majority. Yeah. But I also would, like Chris is saying, it's largely genre specific, but for the most part, don't give up right away. Like don't shoot for self-publishing right off the bat just because you got a few rejections, unless you really want to self-publish.
Exactly. Right. You might want different things out of it, and that's totally fine. But if your initial instinct is, I want to go traditional publishing, like it is for me, you do have to accept you're going to get the rejections, and it's not about quality. Well, I mean, it might be, but it's not necessarily because of quality. It's not because you're a bad writer or because they don't appreciate the work. It might just be a timing thing. It might just be that you don't go well with that agent, and you really do have to try on a, consistent basis to really
you do have to try consistently. It's true. And every query letter needs to be personalized to the agent. So it takes time, but you don't want to not put the care into every query letter that it deserves, because that's a good way to get just rejected just without really even getting much of a look at your query letter. So because they are so important, it's important to put the time and effort it takes into every single query. It is an exhausting process. So I think the way Karissa does it in batches is a good idea, because it can just be exhausting to keep doing it. And even if you're apathetic, the rejection just makes you more tired, honestly, if you've already put in all the work. So I think I used to query hard. I would just do like 10, 15 queries a day. That is so much. I don't recommend it, because it's even if the apathy doesn't eventually wear down so that you're sad, you're exhausted. And it feels like you're not you don't have any momentum. So I think doing a batch here, a batch there, you go work on something else, come back to it, is a good idea.
I think too, one of the reasons that the rejection can feel so personal and, awful is because you put so much work into it that it feels like you're no longer making progress.
Yeah.
And so just to tell like a quick story about like my querying experience. So when I look back on it now, I definitely think that my book was not ready to be queried when I started querying it.
Oh no, mine wasn't. Mine.
I was so, I don't know, optimistic, naive, I don't know. And I thought it was ready, but it wasn't. And so when I initially started querying people, and this is another reason I think you should do it in batches, is you get all the rejections back and you kind of notice a theme in their reasoning. If they give you a reason, they won't always, but if they do give you reasons, you'll start to notice that it's probably for the same reason. Yeah. And so when I initially started querying, it just seemed like there was no interest, period. And so I started thinking, okay, there's something wrong with my query letter. They're not even getting to the chapter or the synopsis or anything because there's something wrong in the query letter. Yeah. So
I would say if you send like 30 queries and you get only non-specific rejections, it's probably the query letter. Yeah.
Yep. So I decided I needed to rework it. And again, looking back now, I totally see all the problems with it. It was too basic. It didn't give any of the important detail. I was focusing on like the age and the appearance of the characters. And it's like, that is not what they care about.
Yeah.
So I reworked that, and I've reworked it several times, but
it is a constant process. Yes.
But I finally got it to a place where it felt good. And then I kept getting rejections, and it was more like, we like the concept, but we don't like the execution. So I was like, okay, there's something wrong with my first chapter, because that's what they're seeing. And like I said in the first episode of this podcast, I was starting the story way too early. So I went back because of those rejections and rewrote the entire beginning of the story so that everything was important. Everything was, action right away. And, now I feel like I'm at a querying point. There were all kinds of little things in between there. I redid a certain plot point, all of that. And now I really feel like I have a solid query letter and a solid book, including a solid first chapter. So when I get rejections, I really do feel like they're all subjective now. I feel like I took them very personally before because I did know deep down there was something wrong with it. But now that I fixed it, and now that I feel really confident in it, it's much easier to take the rejection, because it's more like, I don't know, it feels more like they're saying, like
it's because your work isn't good enough. It's just like, if for whatever reason they didn't want it right now.
Exactly. And you do also want to keep in mind that if you are going to go the traditional publishing route, it feels like getting the agent is the biggest step, but there are steps after that, and you want to get the right agent, not just an agent.
It's true. And that's the hardest thing to remember, is like, just because you get an offer, everybody, major PSA for writers, do not immediately sign on with an agent before you ask them a series of questions. You can go look up these questions on the internet very quickly, what you should ask a literary agent before signing. But there's like a certain percentage that they're expected to take out. I wouldn't sign with someone who does any more than the average. You'll figure out if you get to retain, intellectual rights or whatever it is. Like, just make sure you ask the questions, because just because an agent says they want to represent you does not make them a good agent or be a good fit for your book. If they don't have anything else on their list in your genre, it might not be a great choice, because they might not have the connections to push that book to the publishers the way it needs to.
You might be the guinea pig, and you might
could be the guinea pig, and maybe you don't want to be the guinea pig. It depends. Maybe if it's a bigger publishing house, being the guinea pig's okay, because probably some of the other agents have connections. But if it's a small publishing house, you might not want to take the risk of being the guinea pig.
You can, if that's something you're willing to do, but you need to keep in mind that is.
But make sure you ask all the questions first, and that you know what you're getting into. I think, honestly, the hardest, once you get into like that, the swing of the apathy, and you're like, cool, I'm just coasting.
Like, another rejection.
And you're like, who cares? Add it to the pile. And you just like mark it off your list. By the way, hot tip, everybody, keep a list of the agent's name, the literary agent they work for, and the date that you query them. Keep a list, because you will want to know when the day that you query them, because some people will say, if I don't get back to you within 3 months, email me. I must have gotten lost. Some of them will say, after 3 months, if you don't get a response, assume it's a rejection. So you need to read that stuff on every single agent submission page. You need to note it. You need to make sure you have the agent, the publishing house, the date. Because also some places will say, if one agent here rejects, you can go submit it to a different agent at this publishing house, but then you need to know which one you submitted it to. So just keep a very detailed list. You're gonna be so frustrated if you don't, because I didn't when I started, and it was infuriating. So
I just keep the emails now, and that's not even a good system, because sometimes it's the submission form.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I have to think back. I know I looked at this agent, but did I query them or did I query the other guy?
I started keeping one document that the first page is my query letter. The second page is my 1-page synopsis. The next page is my full synopsis, which is like 3 or 4 pages. The next page is, you will quickly realize when you do like the form submissions, they'll ask for stuff that's not in normal query letters. Like, what's your favorite sentence in the manuscript? If your main character had one thing to say about the book, what would it be? That stuff, you don't want to have to rewrite that every single time.
Right.
So
keep
copy
anything
and paste
new
it.
that you write.
Anything you have to submit for any kind of query process, keep it in that document. And then my last page of the document is the list of agents and the dates. And every book has one, and you will thank yourself for it. But you will eventually realize when you feel like, okay, this book is quality, it's been edited enough, it's getting some feedback, you'll start to get requests for partials, which is great. So that could be 10 pages, 3 chapters, 50 pages. Maybe you get some requests for the full manuscript.
Right.
And if you get a couple of those for the same book, it's like, oh my God, it's the most amazing feeling in the world. You're like, it's happening. I'm so close. You might not be that close.
Yeah. You're closer, but you're not there.
You're closer. But that's what makes it so hard, is because I've had 2 books that have gotten that. The last book I was querying especially. And so that's one I've decided I'm not going to self-publish, because I think that all of the requests for partials, exactly, it means that there is enough interest in the industry for it. And those are ones where I've gotten more specific feedback. So I'm working on a rewrite to try and address those specific things. Guys, if an agent tells you something specific about your book, that is gold. If they give you any kind of specific feedback, take it to heart. That's the stuff you do take to heart, and you do see if you can fix it in your book. Like, don't let it rule your world. If you truly disagree with it, you don't have to change it. But for the most part, take that and run with it, and then resubmit it. I mean, why not? But yeah, so really the hardest part is when your apathy shield starts to break down, because
you're immune.
And think you're immune. You're like, I'm getting like hundreds of rejections. I'm old hat at this. No one can hurt my feelings. And then they're like, hey, we'd like to see a partial. And you're like, oh my God, I would do anything for you. Everything that you say means something to me. Oh my God. And
Hope
then
eternal.
Exactly. And then they're like, after consideration, we've decided this isn't the right, choice for us, but we wish you the best in your publishing endeavors. And you're like, oh,
so
like I'm
worse
worthless.
than getting rejected at the query letter level.
It is so much worse.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing you have to keep in mind. It's still a good thing. I mean, don't be disappointed by that. Even if they request a partial or they request whatever, and then they still reject it, that is still a good sign. Like, honestly, like, put like a green line or something on your paper that you're tracking this all on. That is good news. So I mean, try and let that be an encouragement to keep going. Let that be your fuel to keep trying, instead of, I feel so crushed. Now I've been rejected after getting my hopes up.
Yeah. And I do think that's the key to it. You have to think of every rejection as a step in the right direction, as, okay, I'm learning more. I know more now than I did 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever.
Exactly.
And I can use that to improve. And I think that's how you should approach the rejections, is that you should use them to improve. Hopefully you get feedback, even if you don't, especially if you're querying for the first time for a book. Take note that maybe it is something wrong in the query letter, or maybe it is something off in your first chapter.
Your query letter, if your very first query letter is most likely going to need a lot of work. It's most likely not the query letter that's going to get you sold. It's just not. And that's okay. So that's why you just keep track of the agents that you've queried. And when you rework the query letter, you can submit to them again.
Yep.
Almost always. There almost never will you find a literary agent that's like, don't resubmit. I think maybe twice ever I've seen no resubmissions. You do want to be respectful of their time, wait until you have a totally different query letter, or you've really vamped up the book, or it's been like 6 months plus, then you can do it all again. So don't waste their time. Nobody wants their time wasted. They go through so many manuscripts. But
don't waste your own time.
Yeah. Don't waste your own
another
time.
automatic rejection.
Yeah, exactly. But don't just assume that one rejection means you can never submit to that agent again. Especially if you're like, no, but they seemed perfect. Maybe they are perfect for it. You have to prove to them that you've got what they're looking for.
You also do have to let go of that. There were a couple agents back when I first started querying, and I would think to myself, this is it. They are the one. And so I put off submitting to them for a long time, because I wanted to, guinea pig it with other people.
Yeah.
And then I submitted to them and I got rejected. And it was just this extra crushing feeling. I'm like, all of my hopes and dreams have been crushed.
Oh, that's awful.
But you get over it.
I always submit right away, because you never know when agents will suddenly be like, not accepting submissions anymore, or not accepting submissions from this month to this month. And it's like the day after they stopped accepting submissions. And you're like, I am crestfallen.
Can I just complain about that for a minute? The thing that gets me is that on their, usually they have a section for the agents, and you kind of scroll through or click through to see all the agents at the agency.
And you should.
And they always, yes, you absolutely should. But you'll go through and you'll read the bio and you'll be like, okay, this sounds great. And then you click on it and then they say they're not accepting submissions.
I know.
Like, why couldn't you say that at the front end? So I didn't spend time reading your bio.
I have researched and then full on customized so many query letters before finding that line that says, or then you'll go to the submissions page to make sure that you've got all of what they're looking for, because every literary agent wants different types of material with every submission. So you always need to check the agent's profile and the submissions page. So you go to like one or the other that you hadn't already gone to, and then you see this agent not accepting submissions, and you're like, screw this.
Like, that was an hour of my time.
Honestly, the time consumption becomes way more discouraging than the rejections after a while, which is why batches, like Karissa said, batches, way better. Set yourself a goal. Like, I'm going to do like 10 this week or something. And that's still a pretty hefty goal, depending on like what your normal work hours are. And then take a break from it. Just pat yourself on the back for the fact that you sent out 10 queries. That's a lot of work. And also is putting yourself out there. So
yeah. And when another great reason to do batches is that when they come back, I mean, agencies have different response times, but generally they'll all start to trickle in kind of at the same time,
which
means that there will be a point when you don't have any queries out there that haven't been responded to. And it's kind of a mental break because you don't have to anticipate another rejection. You can kind of recover and let yourself.
It's true. Also, after a time, you'll probably forget. You're going to forget some of the queries that you've sent. So then all of a sudden you're going to get a response and you're going to be like, oh, I totally forgot I even sent that query letter.
That happens a lot with the submission letters because I don't keep a record of those. I know I should, but I don't. And then I'll get a response and there have been rejections, but I'm still like,
and you're like, oh, I forgot about that. I am sometimes bad about, I'll leave them all, I'll open them and stuff, and I'll just leave them all marked as unread so that I remember to go into my document and mark them. And they'll be in there for like 6 months sometimes before I like go actually collect them, sort them, and like put them in the right documents. But yeah.
Yep.
Rejection, apathy.
So fun. But yeah, I mean, you just have to accept that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I do think too, you can change your mind about this, but I think when you initially start querying, you need to know how dedicated you are to traditional versus if you're willing to go self.
Yeah. It's true.
Because I think that's going to change the way that you spend your time. If you are really willing to go self-publish and you feel like you can be successful at that, or you think it's best for you or the book or whatever.
Yeah.
You can be a little more relaxed about it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go traditional and this is me, I'm very committed to going traditional because I don't think I can be successful if it's just me. I feel like I will just do better with a publishing house behind me. And I do think that I'm writing a little more mainstream.
Yeah.
So it just feels like the right option for me. And because of that, you're kind of in it for it's kind of like running an endurance race versus a sprint. And you have to approach it differently. It's a different kind of skill set. So
it's true. And then, and you do have to keep in mind with that like it is typically traditional publishing is a much longer payout because it could literally be decades before somebody picks it up. So this is not, you might be like, my career is going to be a published author. It might be in 20 years, or it could be next year. You never know. But like, you don't want to pin all of your hopes on, I'm going to be a traditionally published author by this date, this time, because it's really completely out of your control. So doing that is a great way to feel so disappointed and disillusioned. And every rejection letter hurts when you want it that bad and you've set this deadline for yourself. It's really important to keep in mind it's out of your hands. Like it is, all you can do is your best, and then it's out of your hands. Whereas self-publishing is more instant gratification in the sense that you can publish it right away. You can see it in print. Maybe you'll get a few sales. I would recommend, as somebody who has self-published before, my cautions are this, and I'm about to do it again. So like, there's definitely a place for it. I too want to be traditionally published. My goal is to get to traditional publishing. So I'm still querying stuff. I just, after seeing both industries for so long, I think there's absolutely a place for both. Like I've mentioned, I'm doing the Alien book self-published because that is going to be a hard one to sell an agent on. It's just not a very sci-fi is not popular. Like it's never the most popular. It's never mainstream.
It's so that's underrated.
It is underrated, but so it's going to be really hard to sell an agent on that one. So, okay. So now I know I'm not, taking this book that an agent might really, really want. And I did test the waters first. Like I said, I did about 50 queries with it, and I think I had a good query letter. This is after, literally a decade of queries and having people review my query letters. By the way, shout out to Sonia Stone. She's a YA author and she reviewed my query letter once. Oh my God. The things that she reviewed in my query letter I have carried with me to this day is the most helpful thing in the world. So, hey, that's another thing, guys. Our Patreon writing group. If you want help with query letter stuff, let's talk about it. We'd love to help. There is nothing that I love more than trying to steer other people clear of the same mistakes that I've made. It feels like you get to go back and fix it for yourself a little bit.
Like, past Ash would appreciate this.
Yes, exactly. But so I've got a book that I don't think is going to find an agent mainstream. I also am extremely driven with my own free time. I actually don't have much quote unquote free time because everything I do, I'm doing 2 podcasts right now, and I'm still writing, and I'm editing, and I'm about to self-publish a thing. I'm extremely self-motivated. If you are very self-motivated, self-publishing might be okay for you, because that you're gonna also have to market it. Like self-publishing is not like, you're not going to have, like Karissa said, you're not going to have that publishing house behind you. It's not going to automatically be in all the bookstores. I mean, it might be widespread available online, but most hardcore readers do want it in print. So there's that. You're going to have to cover a lot of the costs yourself. Like, you are probably going to want to hire a cover designer. You will probably need to hire a formatter unless you're using Kindle Direct Publishing. And there are, pros and cons to that too. Highly, guys, this is slightly separate note, but if you are going to self-publish, find a print-on-demand service. Use Kindle Direct Publishing, use BookLocker, I don't care. Use a print-on-demand service. It's a newer way of self-publishing, where instead of you having to order thousands of copies of your book that you pay for and store in your garage, hoping you can sell them, instead, they just print the book when someone orders the book. Way better for you, probably way better for the environment, way less discouraging to see thousands of books stacked in your garage. So find a POD service. So what did I say? Genre. So you have to check the genre, your own motivation, also your own skill set. I did work for a marketing company briefly. I didn't like it. I don't like it, which is why my goal is still to find an agent, because at some point I would like to find an agent for another book, sign them on that book. That book does well. Now I have a platform. Now maybe they'll go ahead and sign my Alien book, because like I said before, you can self-publish and then many agents will still republish it for you. It just, it depends on what your platform is, what the book is, what the literary agent's policy on publishing previously published books is. It all just depends. But it can still be a good place to start, but you probably want to have some kind of marketing experience, or you take a Udemy course, or one of the free online educational courses about marketing, and you were going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to contact bookstores. You're going to have to contact libraries about doing events about, hey, can I put my bookmarks out? You have to be really proactive with self-publishing. So if you don't have the time commitment to push your own book, if you don't have the experience, you don't have the drive, self-publishing just might not be a good fit for you, because
I think it takes a very particular type of person.
Yeah, it's hard. I think I have the base skill set, and I absolutely have the drive and the personality for it, and I still hate doing it. So I'm doing it just because I want to put my Alien book out there. Honestly, I'm not expecting a ton of sales, not to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it on the other side, but really, I think it's fun. It makes me laugh. I think maybe that pretentious book club listeners will get a kick out of it. It's the same sense of humor that I have in that podcast. Maybe you guys will like it too. Hi, Liv. My husband just got home.
Hi, Javi.
Karissa says hi. Karissa?
Hello, Karissa.
Your food is in the microwave. Chips.
Chips.
Happy about chips. But yeah, so for self-publishing, it's just, it's a commitment. It's a huge commitment. And I'm doing it. Hopefully, I was going to say, hopefully the Scriptarian Society listeners will also be interested in it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going into it with the expectation of I'm going to sell thousands and thousands of books self-publishing, which might also help if you decide to go self-publishing. Set reasonable expectations, because it is so much harder.
Right. Let's see. What else?
Don't start it. You have a treat in there. I was about to microwave his treat. Oh, you got it? Yes, now you can start it.
Cool. Trying to think if there's anything else I have to say about rejection. I feel like we've been jumping around a little bit, but it's really just, you have to find a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Find how much time can you spend while keeping your sanity.
Set reasonable expectations for how many queries you can send out, when you're going to send them out. like how long it might take to find an agent, if you're going to find an agent, if you decide to self-publish, that whether or not you even sell any books, like just be reasonable and don't take anything personally, and just keep trying to improve yourself.
And the book, I think that's
and the book.
important
Well,
too.
that's what I meant by improve yourself.
Right.
Just keep trying to improve your work.
This is also something I've noticed on Book Talk. And again, a lot of self-published authors probably have really great books, but it feels like sometimes they're more concerned with being an author than with publishing a good book.
It's true.
And so it feels to me like maybe they're just not putting the proper effort into the query letter or into the
that is definitely a risk factor.
I think you're already ahead of the game if you really are putting that effort in. Letting other people read the query letter and the book, but especially the first couple chapters to really be critical. And taking rejection from those people first.
Or
it's true. Criticism, I guess, not rejection, but they feel the same.
I think you're right. I think, just don't rush it. Don't rush your query. Don't rush sending out a query. Don't rush to self-publishing your book just because you want to be a published author. Trust me, being a published author who's only sold 10 books does not feel any better than being an unpublished author. In fact, it kind of feels worse. So, and I can say that because that was absolutely me with the first book, which to be fair, I was probably rushing into it because that's my personality, but also I thought it was a really good book, but I was much younger. And now in retrospect, I'm like, that book was nowhere near publish ready, but just don't rush it.
Make sure that you're spending the right amount of time and effort on it.
And if you can reach out to people who have been through either the query process or the self-publishing process or the traditionally published process, do it. If you know anybody, reach out, ask on Facebook, ask your parents, friends. It doesn't matter. If you can talk to anyone who's been through it, that is the most invaluable advice you're going to get. Sonia Stone's review of my query letter is to this day the most valuable piece of publishing feedback I've ever gotten. It improved my query letters by 200-300%, which is just invaluable. So Karissa and I have both been through the ringer with this stuff, and we've gotten interest on books, we've gotten manuscript requests. No, we're not published yet. Many not traditionally published, many people are not, who have good books, but reach out on the Patreon group. We will talk query letters with you guys. We've been through it and are still going through it. Let's all share. If you guys have some advice, you're like, I got this great tip from this other person who's an author, or if you guys already are a successful author,
share with us.
This is really reach out and reach back, and let's all just share whatever little helpful information we got, because this is really hard. I think that can also maybe help with the rejection, is knowing that other people are going through this with you, and that if you're always learning something new about what you're doing, it's hard to feel like you're stalled. It's hard to feel like it's a stalemate if you're always learning something new about what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. I remember when I met you, and I don't even really remember the direct conversation, but where essentially we talked about querying for the first time. You're like, I've been rejected all these times. I was like, well, thank goodness, me too.
Oof, we all have.
It's
rough.
And just understanding that you should be taking the opportunity to learn from it. Because it'll make your writing better. And ultimately, that's the version of your book you want out there anyway. You want the best version of it out there.
It's true. Honestly, I think if you were to magically get a version of your book published traditionally, and then you read it a year later and you go, oh my God, this was not ready. That is going to feel so much worse than any rejection, than any amount of rejections. You don't want that. So
when I look back on there's the first draft of my book, right, which is obviously terrible because the first draft is always terrible, but the draft that I first started querying, at 15, I was like, this is it. Looking back on it now, so bad. Then you get kind of the new version at 17, 18,
and you're like,
this
so
is
good.
It. And then it's no, still not good. And then I remember going through college, and I think it was junior year, I did a major edit because I have the 9 books, and I did all 9 books. I redid them. I was like, these are so good.
I remember
and they are so much better now. But then after I graduated, when I was at my first job after college, I was working on the first book, and this new plot point kind of I guess it was really hard to sum up my book in a query letter. And I started thinking about, why is it hard? And I think it was because ultimately the characters were kind of just meandering around, and the events weren't really connected by a cohesive force or something. And so I added something in, and now it's so good. And I'm just so proud of it now. If I had gotten published at that 15 years old or 18 years old or even 22 years old version, I would be so ashamed of it now.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like this is a version that I would be proud of being published as is right now. I would still be proud of it 10 years from now.
See,
can it still take work? Sure. I would take edits. I would of course want to make it even better, but the way it is now, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
And I think I was just going to say, that's why the rejections aren't as personal, because it's more a subjective rejection as opposed to this is just not there yet. You need to do
exactly right. And you should feel that way before you send queries or before you self-publish. Like really self-publishing.
Ideally, just be sure.
Just be sure. It's one of those things where like, honestly, even give it a few, like write the book, be finished with the book, do your final draft, feel awesome about it. Maybe wait a few months, go back, read it, see how you're feeling. If you still are like, no, this is amazing, start your querying process. I would say still don't self-publish at that point, because give it 3 more months. So now you've got 6 months. You're going to know. Like, if you've still been writing and reading since then, you're going to know. You're either going to still go, this is an amazing book, this is awesome. Like I'm which
is where I'm at now.
Exactly. That's how I feel about my Alien book, which is why I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and self-publish it. Is I wrote that about a year ago, and reading it again today, I'm still laughing at the jokes that I wrote. And I'm still going, there's very few things that I need to change in this. Like, it just needs a very light edit. And I think it's good to go. And like, I still like it. I mean, this is no surprise to our listeners because they're writers, but how rare is it to still like something that you wrote 3 months ago, 6 months ago, much less a year ago? So if you have a piece of fiction that, or whatever it is, and you still like it, that length of time later, that's a very good sign that is ready to be queried or self-published, whatever your wishes.
And I think too, sometimes when you're thinking about querying, there's always something that kind of sticks out as still wrong with the book. And you kind of ignore it because you say to yourself, this is still a good book. I still want it out in the world. And that can very well be true, but fix that thing. If something keeps bugging you, if you get a rejection and every time you're like, it might be that, fix it. Do it. Don't put it off. Because your book can only be better for it. And if it is a good story, then it deserves for you to give it that kind of care.
It's very true. It's very true. It's about respect for yourself as an author. It's respect for the story that you're telling, because it's going to make it that much more impactful. And it's also respect for your readers. Like really when it comes down to it, is you want to, they are investing time and money in your book. And with that, we're all readers too. We know like the emotional and psychological strength and willpower that we give to every book we read. They deserve to get the best version of the story that you're giving them. And you deserve it too, because that's how you're going to build a platform and you're going to get a readership, is by giving it your best, and your readers will love you for it.
I agree.
What a good conversation we had today.
I think it was good. I feel like we jumped around a little bit, but I feel like I said everything I kind of wanted to say.
That's my Aries brain. No, that's it. My Aries brain was like, what about this? And then that. Just kidding. Let's talk about self-publishing, even though we're going to have a whole episode about it.
I feel like we do that a lot, but I think it works. It gives you guys time to process our previous point.
What do you think? Do you guys hate it? We'll take feedback. Do you guys hate it or do you love it?
Do we need to outline these episodes? Because we don't.
I literally have an outline, and as I'm looking at the outline, I have still jumped around like 3 times, and I'm like, interesting choice, Ash. Why would we do that?
I don't have an outline because I told you I planned out the first 3 and then I stopped. All I have is this note card with Bugbear on it.
Nice. Well, so you brought Bugbear to the table, and I have an outline I will try to follow more closely. I'm going to try and follow it more closely next time. I did good following it our first few episodes, and then I was like, now I'm too excited.
Everything. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll go in this order, and then you say something and I'm like, great, we're going to jump ahead to that point.
My own brain is doing the exact same thing. I'm like, we're going to talk about this, and I'm like, what if we talk about this other thing first? And so then I do. Well, anyways, do you have any writing updates or quandaries from this week?
Nope, still same stuff. I've now decided to commit to changing the point of view in book 3. So that's what I've been working on instead of the other things from my chaotic week last week. So
oh my God, I'm sorry.
Something's going on.
Yes. Javi is like taking off his clothes over there.
Oh, that's fun. Javi, I'm still in the room.
Rosa is still in the room. We are still podcasting. Like I said, I am doing like a quick new edit of my Alien book before it goes out, but I'm still planning to have that book out by November. So that'll be exciting.
Yay.
And I'll give you guys more updates as I have them. But that, and I think I decided we're going to do NaNoWriMo, and I'm working on a collage thing like you
yeah, the
me.
aesthetic thing. Okay. Apparently I pronounced that word weird because my parents okay, it's aesthetic.
Yes.
But I say aesthetic because I pronounce the A, and I have literally never noticed that until my parents started correcting me just subtly. I'd be like, I'm making an aesthetic collage, and they're like, aesthetic? I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. I'm making a collage.
Did you watch How I Met Your Mother? I forget.
Yeah.
Okay, you know how Ted pronounces encyclopedia?
Yeah. That's me with this word. Yep. And
aesthetic.
I don't want to stop. So.
I've never corrected you. I like that you do it. I'm always in my head, I'm always like, aesthetic, but I like the way you say it.
It's because it's aesthetically pleasing, isn't it? Or is it aesthetically pleasing?
It's aesthetically pleasing.
Wow. Okay. So this is just me. It's probably because I learned it from reading and then I pronounced it in my head that way, and it just never changed.
It's like the word gray spelled the British way is very aesthetically pleasing to me. And the word color spelled really, like most of the British spellings, I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if it's because I just grew up somehow only reading books by British authors, so it's what I learned first or what, but I see them and I'm just like, I still write words like that because it's just aesthetically pleasing, or aesthetically pleasing, if you will.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm aware I'm pronouncing it wrong. I just don't care.
So there we go. So in case you guys have ever wondered.
Yeah. If I do that and you say, does she know?
No, she knows. She's proud of
yes. It's like saying Wednesday.
Oh,
except I don't do that.
No, but it is nice though. Yeah. Wednesday. I do when I spell it because it's just nice. There's something soothing about it.
It is.
Well, everybody follow us on social media if you don't already. Our Karissa is absolutely, she gets all the credit for our social media. She is the social media queen. She's got us on Instagram and TikTok at the Scripturian Society. And she's constantly putting out really fun stuff. So if you are a writer, story? Yes.
Can I tell one real fast? Okay, so absolutely. I posted like 4 days ago this TikTok, and it got like 30 likes, which is about average for us right now. And then it stopped, and I posted one a day. That's my goal. And then I posted one I think 2 days ago and one today, and it's gotten like 2-3 likes. And then suddenly that TikTok from 4 days ago is up to 100. Like, what? Why is everyone saying this? Did the sound just suddenly go on trend? Did someone famous like it?
I have no idea.
I don't know what happened. I don't know.
The learning curve for TikTok is so much steeper than the learning curve for query letters.
Yeah. I'm less invested in it on an emotional level, but I'm more confused by it.
Way more confused.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. But if you guys are a writer or even a reader and you want some truly excellent writerish or writery content, that's a discussion for another time for which is the correct term, writery or writerish. What do you guys think? Is it writery or writerish? I don't know.
Let's pick one.
Yeah, let's pick one, but it's one of those. Go follow the Scripturian Society. If you're looking for some spooky Halloween listens, go check out that Pretentious Book Club because we have Dracula and then magic lessons coming out. So that's fun. And I think that's all we've got. Find us on Patreon too. The writing group that I don't think I mentioned this before, but it is free to join the writing group. So come chat with us about books and writing, and it's free to join that part. So please come join us. We are lonely.
Yes.
Can you tell?
I don't know. Do we give off lonely vibes?
I don't know. We're two girls talking to our computers in really dark rooms across the country.
I mean, apparently your husband is in the room undressing. So
he was in the room undressing and then he walked away. I'm going to go find him and he's going to be playing video games and he's going to be like, did you need something? And I'd be like, what a tease he was in here acting like he wanted my attention.
Stupid.
Boys are dumb.
Anyway, I think that's it. What do you guys think about rejections?
What's your experience with them? Do you guys have any hot query tips? Please.
Do you want any specific advice?
Do you want us to stop doing something? Do you want Karissa to stop saying aesthetically? She won't, but just to know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why we're losing people.
Yeah, it's just good to know. Just like query lists, it's good to know what you're doing wrong. Yeah. In our case, we're not going to fix it.
Right. This is just a subjective difference.
We're not going to. We're too apathetic. We're not going to take it personally. Don't worry. Trained in apathy, we are.
That's us.
Yep.
So yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then I guess we're done.
Until next week, everybody.
Yeah.
Keep writing.
We'll see you on the next page.
Bye.
Bye.